I'm hoping the Big Ten has to modify their system for us.
Probably like getting grade 10 sandpaper rubbed on your face every day.
I mean, we say it all the time, whether, there's two types of turds, you're a sinker or you're a floater, but you're still a turd, right? I
mean, we are about players and players playing the plays and not necessarily the plays.
Welcome to the Varsity Club podcast. My name is Derek Peterson. This week, I am thrilled to have a former Blackshirt on the podcast. One partner of a pretty sneakily under the radar no-fly zone in Nebraska secondary in 2019, and a guy who will soon be an NFL cornerback. I'm joined by Dicaprio Bootle, Blackshirt captain, no doubt in my mind an NFL contributor for years to come down the road. Dicaprio, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you for coming on this podcast. And I'm not saying this just because you're here and you agreed to do this, but you have been one of the most entertaining players that I've covered and one of my favorite people that I've gotten to cover in the 4 years, coming up on 5 seasons now that I've covered this football team. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, no problem.
How has your schedule been since the season ended? Has it been wacky? What you expected with COVID? What have you been up to?
I mean, since the season ended, I've just been kind of going. I mean, I've never had a chance to really take a breath and, step back and take a breather. I just kind of rolled back into training and, coming up, getting ready for pro day right now. I just been training for that ever since. So the minute the season ended, I just kind of got my plans in order, figured out what I was going to do. And then as soon as possible, I got back to work, got back to training. First started down in Miami when I went back home for Christmas, and I was just kind of working because I knew eventually, I was gonna have to get into some type of training program or something, depending on where I wanted to go and all of that. But I ended up just deciding to come out to Phoenix at the Exos facility here in Arizona, and I just been here ever since. Just going and going. Probably sometimes 6-7 days a week.
Has draft stuff really ramped up yet? Do you get contacted by scouts? Do you do interviews this early or anything like that? Or is it a lot of individual workouts still?
A lot of it is individual workouts, but some days I'll get calls from teams, having questions, asking, kind of like a little interview process type of thing. But right now I would say that's my focus because that's in front of me. But at the same time, mostly I've been focusing on really trying to put my all in the training so that way I could get the most out of pro day. And then I know after pro day, it'll be able to come back around and come even more. So teams call and I take the calls and we talk from time to time. But the majority of it is really just me working out every day.
Probably ramp up the next couple months or so as we get closer. I've talked to guys about this before. I talked to guys in the last draft class in particular about this, and I actually just talked to Josh Mitchell about it on my podcast. Nebraska guys get disrespected, and in a lot of instances they get a little overlooked from an individual evaluation standpoint, just because of what the team's win-loss record has been in recent years. There's a stigma about you guys, particularly defensively, just because of how things went for a stretch there. But you guys, your defense last year, it was significantly better than I think most outsiders expected it to be heading into the season. And it was significantly better than I think you guys still, to this day, even get credit for in some circles. And you lost vets, you lost all 3 starters on the defensive line, you lost Lamar in the secondary, and yet it seemed like you turned a corner. Why do you think that was?
I mean, like you said, going back to the win-loss record wasn't favorable at all. And bottom line is winning is everything. I think that was just defensively our desire to win was just so high. We wanted to win so bad, and everybody just kind of kept each other accountable. And everybody wanted to do their job, and guys weren't afraid to tell somebody if I knew I needed somebody to get somewhere from me, I would tell them pre-snap I need you to get here. And during the snap, they would do it. And if they didn't do it, then, you know, I would let them hear it. You know, as well as like the whole defense just kept each other accountable in that way. So there weren't many times where we were against each other. We just were like one big happy unit, loving on each other, you know, through the good times, through the bad times. You know, I mean, ultimately, like I said, we took a lot of losses, but, you know, we just had that desire to win, just that desire to win the individual reps. And we were just the ultimate competitors.
You guys were just hungry to be on the field too. Like we made so much in the media about how many snaps the defense was going to play just because of the way the offense ran. But like you guys just kept saying like, no, we want to be on the field. We want to be on the field.
Yeah, 100%. If it's coming down to it, a crunch time, you know, and the game's on the line, we want to be on the field. We want to be the ones to win the game. We don't want to have to put the offense back out there and have to make them win the game. You know, we want to win the game for them. You know, I mean, we just like going back to what I said, like we were just so competitive and just always wanted to be on the field, more opportunities, more plays, more opportunities.
You guys, you seniors, you had the option of coming back for another year or moving on to prepare for the NFL. You obviously made the decision to start preparing for the league. Was that a difficult decision to make?
I mean, I think anytime that, you know, you've been used to something for so long. I spent X amount of years in Nebraska. And I mean, you know, anytime you have to leave something that you've been a part of for so long, it's always going to sting a little bit, no matter what, no matter if it's good feelings or bad feelings connected to it. But I think for me, it was just, it was that time, you know, I had done so much in my time in Nebraska, not to toot my own horn or anything, but, you know, I just felt like, you know, coming back for my 5th year and being a captain and, you know, leading the team, you know, not to say that I don't know what more I could do, but I just felt like I had filled my role at Nebraska. I had filled my legacy in that, you know, it was time for me to move on to bigger things, you know, and I mean, it was a hard decision, like regardless, a lot of talks with God, just trying to figure it out. And, you know, I mean, regardless, if there was no COVID, I would have had to leave anyway. But, you know, being presented the opportunity, I mean, those are things that you have to think about, even if, you know, it's not likely that you do, it's still something that you have to think about. So, you know, I just prayed on it a lot, and ultimately it led me to this decision.
Hey man, this is the time to toot your own horn. Don't be afraid to toot your own horn. You're in like job interview stage of your career right now. Like talk yourself up. Like 2018 or 2019 or whatever it was when you like led the country in pass deflections, pass breakups. Teams like stopped throwing at you. Like when you say, I don't know what more I could have done in Nebraska, like I'm right there with you. Like teams were afraid to throw at you. So talk to me about Travis Fisher. This is a guy that is viewed as one of the best recruiters on the staff. Mm-hmm. He's clearly one of the most important parts of the staff. When we interact with him in the media, if we ask a stupid question or if we try to get a little too cute, he's got no problem keeping it real with us. He's kind of like a no bullshit vibe with us, and he can get a little prickly at times. And then I see him like in videos that Nebraska has shared recently. He's vibing and he's getting into it in the dodgeball session that they're doing. Like, just like, what's it like to be around him on a daily basis? Like, what's it like to play for him?
Yeah, I mean, that's everything that you just said. Like, that's Coach Fish, you know, a real relaxed guy. You know, when it's time to be relaxed and when it's you know, outside of football, as soon as it's football, you know, he locks in and, you know, he's going to grind you as a coach. Coming out of high school, you know, I was like, man, I would love to go play for Coach Fisher because he recruited me out of high school. But now it's just like, ultimately, I think, you know, the opportunity at Nebraska is just too big to pass on. So ended up coming to Nebraska and he ended up meeting me here. So, you know, that's the cool part about it. I tell people that all the time. But, you know, as a coach, if you want somebody to keep it real with you and, you know, regardless of what you think you are or what you may not be, he's going to keep it real with you. He's going to tell you, look, you're not this, or you are this, or, you know, you need to fix this, or you need to fix that, or, you know, the result's not going to be pretty. So, you know, going into every game, I was confident knowing that, my coach wasn't selling me a dream. My coach was telling me exactly how I was going to be, as long as I executed and just listened to him and executed the game plan. And outside of that, sometimes we come into the office and it's just football, I really got to get this to you guys today. And sometimes we come in the office and, if we checked all the boxes on everything that we need to learn or everything that we need to get squared away, then, he's playful Coach Fish again. He's running around telling jokes on guys, pitting guys against each other so that way they can compete in something as simple as, throwing some paper in a garbage can, So, I mean, I love being around Coach Fish. He's just a great coach. And, to this day, we still talk every day. And, we just had that relationship. And, that relationship is going to go on for forever.
Tell me some personal stories. And I don't want you to get in trouble. So don't tell me anything that's going to get you in trouble. But like you say, on days where you don't got to come in and get football stuff done, where you can come in and Coach Fish can be like, oh, no, we're going to have a competition about who can, hit as many bundles of paper into the trash can or something like that. Like, what are some like personal stories or some stories about you guys in the DB room or you hanging out with coaches or things like that that you're going to remember when you kind of think back on these last however many years? Let's do some story time.
Well, like a recurring theme always is like, Coach Fish was fast in high school. So, he's all about speed. Like, he loves speed. When he sees speed in the DB, like, he just thinks that's the most beautiful thing ever. Guys that can really run. Like, if you can run, you can play for Coach Fish. He's going to coach you up to, be technical and, kind of put that with being able to run. But as long as you can run, you can play for Coach Fish. So he's always like, sprinkling little salt here, salt there. Like, oh, who's the fastest DB in the room? And, everybody's always talking and saying, oh, I'm the fastest. So for a while, he just kept bringing it up, just like day after day. He just was like, oh, who the fastest in the room? I just want to know who's the fastest in the room. And then I don't remember if it was spring practice or if it was like fall camp or something, but Coach Fish basically after the practice, we usually have like a 5 more period. So, we take 5 minutes to really drill down something that we need to go over, really get down something. I remember we had a pretty good practice and there wasn't anything that we really messed up on too much. So Coach Fish took the opportunity to have some fun. So he's kind of like started sprinkling that again, like, okay, who's the fastest here? And so he starts saying, okay, I want to see guys race. So he starts calling out people like, okay, you race against you. And you could tell, like, at first it starts off with like the slowest DBs racing against each other. And then it's building up to like the fastest DBs racing up against each other. And I'm just like, if people that know me, I don't really like boast my speed. Like, I know I'm fast, so I don't feel like I have to go out of my way to tell you that I'm fast. By the way, I just want to throw this in there. Pro day, y'all gonna see a fast number. But okay. But yeah, I'm not boastful about how fast I am. So I'm just kind of sitting back laughing with Coach Fish, and he looks at me and he like, oh, you not safe? Get on the line. And then I get on the line, and then he's like, all right, we about to see who the fastest DB is right now. And then, Deontay came on the line. He was like, Deontay, you versus Decap. And it was going to be a short race. It was only the 10 yards. So whoever had the fastest get off was going to win. Mm-hmm. And Coach Fish got us down, set, go. And then, Deontay could tell y'all the rest of the story. So,
Okay. We'll have to ask him when we talk to him again. Put somebody on blast right now. Who's the slowest DB?
Who's the slowest DB? Oh, that's a good question. Who's the slowest DB? I would say Braxton Clark, but that's not true. But I would do that just to put him on blast. But I'm gonna just go with that. I'm gonna go with Braxton Clark.
Okay. I'll make sure to tell him that you said that.
Yeah, make sure you tell him I said it.
I will. What is the most random thing that turned into a competition for you guys?
Most random thing. Okay. A lot of people don't know this, but when the dab first came in, the dad first came in, and guys are trying to get to know him and stuff, and he's just telling us all his hobbies and things that he likes to do. And one of the things that he likes to do is draw. So on the walls they have like the walls are basically big dry erase boards in the football offices. So the dad grabs a marker, he starts drawing, and he's like, yeah, this he's like drawing animals, drawing people, all type of stuff. And we're just watching him just draw. And like everybody's just like so amazed at like how well he can just draw just off of not even having a reference point, just drawing off of like the image in his head. Mm-hmm. So, we took it upon ourselves. We see him drawing, and guys start grabbing markers and just start drawing. So like the whole wall is just filled up with a whole bunch of drawings and stuff. And, that's kind of like one thing that we turned into a competition. We had the coaches trying to figure out like who had the best drawing, whose drawing was the worst, all that type of stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Was this in a meeting room, or did you guys do this in some coach's office?
This was in Coach Fish's office.
I would love, now I have a picture in my head of him not being in there and then walking in and seeing a bunch of animals on his wall and just like wondering what the hell is going on. Is that what?
See a bunch of animals in the room. He might not be in there, and there's going to be a bunch of dogs in there.
Who is the biggest trash talker on the field of the DBs?
Biggest trash talker on the field, Deontay Williams.
That does not surprise me one bit.
Deontay Williams. And sometimes you might think like he's having a quiet day, but he's just waiting until he does that one thing to where he can just explode, and then he explodes, and everybody's like, "Okay, Tay, like yeah, talk yourself up, like do your thing." So Deontay Williams definitely.
I remember the 1 year Trey Neal was here. I think it was 2018, that first year that the staff was here. And like, there were a handful of moments where Trey would get into it on the field, and like, we could tell that like he had some stuff to say. And Aaron and I were always in the press box, like, let's go, Trey, talk your shit, do it. Let's go. Are you a talker on the field, or are you just like silent killer mentality?
I'm real. When I come out into the game, I don't want nobody thinking like, oh, it's going to be sweet. So I don't talk too much when I come out into the game. But as the game progresses, I drop little gems in like a receiver's ear. So he might run a route and I'll have it covered. And instead of, just being all loud, I'll talk to him one-on-one. I'll tell him like, hey, bro, good route. And now I'm in his head because, it wasn't a good route and I locked you down. But I'm telling you, that's a good route. So now he's like, oh, man, I got a long day. Or, I might tackle somebody and get up and say something on my way up and just walk away. I just like to play the little mind games in receivers' heads.
Okay. The one-on-one between defensive backs and wide receivers are one of, to me, the most interesting one-on-one battles on a football field at any given time, because wide receivers, and I don't think any of them will get mad if I say this, wide receivers tend to be prima donnas. They tend to be like hype guys, and DBs are like, they're not prima donnas, but DBs are expressive. They're expressive when they know that they're playing well. Mm-hmm. So my question to you is, what is the wildest one-on-one experience that you've had playing DB? Like, has there been a wideout that's like been in your ear early before anything has happened, and then you lock him down or pick off a pass or something like that? Like, what's the wildest one-on-one experience, or maybe one-on-one battle that kind of goes through a game that you've had?
Okay. Probably the wildest one that I could think of. I could think of two instances right now. One in practice and one in the game. So I'll give you the game example first.
Okay.
2017, playing Rutgers at home. I get into the game early, and I just kind of line up, and the receiver just start yelling at me. Like, I'm like, dude. I'm like, all right, cool. So the first play go by, he tries to touch me. I move out the way, and I'm young at this time, so I'm like, oh, what this dude got against me? Like, I understand it's football at the end of the day. I know that, but like it just seems so personal. So I'm like, okay, he real passionate about football. That's cool. So the next play was a run play, and he came to try to grab me again, and I just kind of like slapped his hands out the way. He's still talking trash. So they get down into the red zone, and he goes to run a route. He goes in the outside release, and I just jam him all the way to the sideline. He kind of like tries to hip toss me, but I feel that type of stuff. So I kind of like keep my balance, and I'm not really big, so it's kind of hard to use my weight against me. But I just kind of like push him out of bounds, and I grab him, and I look him in the face, and he looked at me like he saw a ghost. And I'm just laughing. I'm like, wow, you doing all that talking, but you just got locked down, so stop. So I mean, that was like probably a wild one-on-one experience in game that I had, but the wildest one-on-one experience I had in practice for sure. Not even just, it wasn't a one-day thing, it was a recurrent thing over and over and over again. Me versus Stanley Morgan. Every day was like every day probably ended in a fight between me and Stanley. And I love him for that, because that's like real passionate. That's my guy. That's just getting better at football every day. He might beat me on a route, throw the ball at me, I'll lock him down, slap his helmet, type of stuff like that. But I remember one time before he left, it was like a red zone period, and he was trying to get the ball, but I'm not gonna lie, I grabbed him a little bit, and basically he got mad, so he hit me in the head, and I wasn't going for that. I'm like, you're not about to just hit me and try to walk away. So I go back and I grab his face mask. Now he has my face mask. Now we just grabbing each other's face masks, throwing blows like a hockey match and like a hockey fight. And, everybody's just watching. Nobody's trying to break it up, nothing. Like, they're just like, oh, that's just Decap standing in the corner of the end zone. Practice went on, and we were like, we broke from practice. We broke from that period, and we were still fighting. And when I looked up, the defense was all the way on the other end of the Hawks. So I'm like, all right, now I got to go all the way back down. So we fought all the time, but I wouldn't want to have it any other way with him. That we fought on the field, and in the locker room we was brothers.
Stanley's got, if I remember correctly, Stanley's got some height on you, doesn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
And that would have been like 2018, 2017 around then. So I feel like that would be a pretty good kind of learning experience for you. I mean, that was still sort of early on in your playing career, right?
Yeah. That was early on in my playing career. But yeah, every rep that I could get against Stanley, I would take it. Every rep. I just loved going against him because I knew I was going to get his best every rep.
I would be remiss if I did not ask you about Cam Taylor Britt.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's already one of the best DBs in the Big Ten heading into this upcoming season. Best returning DBs. He's got a chance to be special. What makes him special?
He's a competitor too. He's a competitor, and I mean, ultimately, past just being a competitor, like, that's mental, but physically, he's just he's just physically gifted. The guy can jump, has good speed, good size, great athleticism. He has like hands the size of a gorilla. He's just like, he's just gifted. He's just like, I have no doubt when scouts see him, when people come to see him in person, they're going to be pleased with what they see, because he's just physically gifted, stout. He just has that gift. He's just born with that ability. He's born to pass the eye test. So for him, basically, it's just going to be go out there this year and dominate. Just dominate. Just go and get your respect.
He was a summer arrival guy when he first got to Nebraska, so he didn't have spring ball to go through. He played quarterback in high school, trying to get caught up in fall camp. What were some of your first impressions when you first met him and started to get to know him?
No, I like Cam from day one. The first day when I met him, he came up, introduced himself. I knew who he was. And that's the thing about our DB room for sure. Like, you come into the DB room, the moment you step foot in that, you're accepted. You're part of the room. So now we're looking after you. The older guys gonna look after you, and the younger guys gonna stick together. And that's how we rock. That's how we roll. We just a tight knit unit. We've always been that way. So him coming in early as a freshman, he had a lot to learn about the position, and he had a lot to learn on defense, and coming with the playbook, and then getting your feet right, your technique, and just kind of putting it all together. That can happen kind of fast for a lot of people, but he did a good job catching on to it early. I just taught him everything that I could, everything that I knew. I gave it to him. I just gave him the keys, and not to say that like I made him or anything, because I didn't. Like, he's a great player, but if I know something and you don't know it, it's a disservice to the room. So I just told him everything I knew, and he put his own twist on some things, and some things he took it for what it was, and now he's out there, he balling. So I'm happy for him.
Yeah, he's got. We got a couple pictures of him with like the extension where he's going for deflections or whatever last year. Like, athletic as hell. What about another guy, maybe a wide receiver that you went against or saw a ton of in practice, or another DB? Like, who are you maybe most excited on an individual standpoint to watch in this upcoming season?
A guy that I like going against in practice last year, and he had some good games at receiver, made some good plays throughout the year. Xavier Betts, definitely. I think when he puts it together, I think he's going to be a really good player. He's just real raw right now, and he was a freshman. He was a freshman, kind of getting thrown into the fire, just trying to figure it out, trying to find his way. But once he actually figures it out and he gets going, like, he's going to be hard to stop. He's just, they're going to put some weight on him. I know he's going to get faster, stronger, bigger, all that. And then, he's going to learn the playbook even more, have more confidence in his play. He's going to be a good player.
I know we're still sort of early, like we talked about early in this process. What kind of feedback have you gotten from people about your game and how it will translate to the next level, or kind of what you need to do sort of in these next few months to keep kind of building? What kind of feedback have you gotten?
For me, I'm professional. I'm making everything look the same. Like, that was one of the biggest keys for Coach Fish to me this past year, was just, having my stance on play 1 be the same stance that I play with on play 70. Just being so professional that everything looks the same. I can do it over and over again, and just continue dominance, and don't get bored with being great. Don't get bored with perfection, because it's been times where I've been bored with doing it great, and that one rep will happen, and then I'm like, I gave up that one rep because I'm doing too much. I'm trying to do too much. So, and that's always been the biggest thing for me. Just being able to go back and watch myself on film has always helped me. And every year, I week 1, I come out and I'm strong, and I only get stronger as the weeks go on. Each game, I only get better. So, personally for me, I would just like to continue working my craft, continue working everything, press coverage, off coverage, working on my breaks, working on every factor of the game, whether I'm great at it or whether I'm bad at it. Just working on everything, because nothing's ever going to be perfect, but you could put yourself in some pretty good situations if you know what you're doing. So just being a professional, really, just being a professional and finishing on the hard plays.
That was kind of going to be my next question, was what kind of goals do you have for maybe the next 12 months or next calendar year for you? Do you have any kind of like set in stone goals that you have that you are things that you want to accomplish?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I'm trying to contribute on the team. Like, I'm just trying to go to an organization and give them my all, no matter how that looks. I'm just trying to, be available for the team and stuff. Like, I'm a guy, I haven't missed any practices in my time in Nebraska. I haven't missed any games. I was always available, and that's just the biggest thing. Like, I just want to be available for whatever organization puts their trust in me.
I remember talking to Lamar before and after last year's draft. And like, he just kept saying, like, I just want somebody to give me a chance because I'm going to make the most of it. And like, he always believed that once he got that chance, he was going to make the most of it. And I mean, we saw what happened. Like, he goes from undrafted guy to starter as a rookie. I think the same can happen for you. You're plenty talented and you should be able to do it. So looking forward to kind of watching your path over these next few months. So, you probably got to get going, so I'll let you get out of here. Thank you so much for doing this. It's been awesome to catch up with you.
Appreciate you.
Pro Day for Nebraska is coming up. So I would assume that there will be some DiCaprio stories coming later this month. We'll be back next week with another podcast. Keep reading HailVarsity.com, and I'll talk to you guys next week.
A Hurrdat Media Production.